From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Well, good evening. And thank you all for coming to what promises to be a most exciting program to honor and celebrate the 78th birthday of Chinua Achebe. And the 50th anniversary of his great novel, Things Fall Apart. I'm Mary Jane Deeb, the Chief of the African and Middle Eastern Division here at the Library of Congress. And this division is co-sponsoring this historical evening with Chinua Achebe, with the Center for the Book here at the Library of Congress, and with Trans-Africa Forum. So this evening's program is co-sponsored by the three organizations. Of course, many of you were at the symposium this morning, and we had absolutely full house, and I want to thank our sponsors, Howard University, the Ralph Bunche Center for International Affairs, and the African Studies Program, as well as the National Summit for Africa, and they supported that program then. Now, this evening, we also have Red Calabash Catering Services, which has prepared a very special meal, a reception of Igbo delicacies in the Mumford Room, to which you're all invited. And we also have a very special program. We have Joseph Nogua of Ra Pa Wa Drums of Mat, who has volunteered to perform on the drums in honor of Chinua Achebe. And I would like to thank you all the contributors, for having contributed your time and supported this program. And I want to especially thank John Cole and Anne Bonny, who've done such a wonderful job in putting this evening program together and helping us. And of course, Muiza, where are you? Who has been just fabulous in helping us out. I also would like to recognize my own colleagues in the African section of the African Middle East Division. Eve Ferguson, who's our youngest member and the new kid on the block in the African section, whose drive and initiative brought Mr. Achebe to the library today. Angel Bastiste, who has organized a very successful symposium this morning. Laverne Page, who has designed your souvenir program. It is something we'll all treasure for this historical evening. And Marita Harper, who brought the young generation, high school students from the Washington area to be part of our program this morning. So thank you all. And I want to take this opportunity to announce something that we had been planning, we in the Library of Congress, we in the African Middle East Division, we had been planning for years. And we are launching tonight, for the first time ever, the African Section Friends Society. And you are all invited to join. In a few days, on the library's webpage, you will find a site called the African Section Friends Society, which will have all the information you need on how to join this Friends Society. The purpose of this society is to support and to promote the programs and activities of the African section, assist in developing, preserving, and enhancing the unique African collections through donations, gifts, bequests, but also by letting people know what are the wonderful things that we hold, and coming to our division to come and look at some of the materials that we hold. So we hope that tonight will hook you and will get you interested in the work that this wonderful library is doing, and especially the work that it's doing here tonight on Africa. We hope this morning's symposium and tonight's program will interest you and will show you what the library does, what it provides in terms of cultural and scholarly experience on Africa. And now, I want to move on. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Imani Countess, Senior Public Affairs Office, the Executive of Trans-Africa Forum, our partner in tonight's program. John Cole will be introducing our guest of honor, of course. So, Imani, that's right.
Good evening. Professor Achebe, distinguished guests, members of the African Diplomatic Corps, Ms. Deeb, Mr. Cole, and friends. On behalf of Trans-Africa Forum's Board of Directors, our chairman, Danny Glover, and our executive director, Nicole Lee, who could not attend this event tonight due to circumstances beyond her control, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for celebrating with us the 50th anniversary of Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. We were delighted when the Library of Congress's African and Middle Eastern Division and the Library of Congress Center for the Book approached us to collaborate with them on this very important event. And we hope that this is the beginning of future collaborations between our institutions. As you know, Trans-Africa Forum is a social justice organization dedicated to justice for the African world. Tonight's important event is part of our mission through our Arthur R. Ashe Jr. Foreign Policy Library of educating U.S. citizens on issues related to Africa, the Caribbean, and Latin America, with programs such as our African World Visions film series, our Viewpoint lecture series, Reader's Corner, and Writer's Corner. There are several members of our staff, including the ever popular and incredible Mwiza Muntali, and they would be delighted to talk with you further about the work that we do. And of course, you can visit our website, www.transafricaforum.org. Things Fall Apart exposes the destruction of African culture, agency, and governance. In this case, the Igbo culture of Nigeria during the colonial rule. More than just a study of colonial exploitation, the novel reveals the authentic voice of a Nigerian retelling the beauty and trials of the colonial period from the perspective of the colonized. The characters are alive with the nuances and the pain of colonization. The story is African, but also universal, evidenced by its worldwide appeal for the past 50 years, becoming the most widely read novel in African literature. When released in 1958, it emerged as an important cultural voice of Africa's independence movement. Indeed, this voice impacted the African diaspora's struggle for freedom against the vestiges of colonialism. Things Fall Apart continues to influence today's emerging writers of the African world and beyond. Thank you, Chinua Achebe, for this universal African story, and happy birthday.
I'm John Cole. I'm the director of the Center for the Book in the Library of Congress, which is the reading promotion arm The center was created in 1977 by Daniel Borston when he was the Librarian of Congress, and he wanted the Library of Congress to do more in our broader culture to promote books and reading, and that's what we do. We do it primarily in the states through a network of affiliated state centers. Each state has created a center to work with us to promote books and reading in their states while we do it on the national level. But we're very proud that in the last 15 years, we have an international component. We have actually stimulated the creation of centers for the book in several countries. The two countries I'm going to mention tonight briefly, one is Russia. There are over 35 libraries throughout Russia that have created centers to help promote book and reading culture in Russia and to strengthen the democratic connection between libraries and reading in Russia. But one that started even earlier, a decade earlier, was the South African Center for the Book. It's a partnership with the National Library of South Africa, and it's based on the Cape Town campus. And it's especially interesting because rather than doing the reading promotion in the way that we have done it traditionally, they've taken a look at the new democratic South Africa and connected some of the vernacular languages that have no real written culture, looked at the need for families and family literacy, and started publishing books for young readers in some of the vernacular languages, formerly vernacular language in South Africa. So the new books are a family reading experience for younger readers and older readers. And it's turned out to be a successful project supported by publishers throughout South Africa. We are so happy to have you here tonight. This is a wonderful, special kind of reading promotion activity. We have had so much help. Part of our help comes from you, the audience, being here and being so enthusiastic, not only tonight, but also during today, when there was a wonderful symposium, and as Mary Jane has said, a wonderful way for the Library of Congress to demonstrate that it is truly a world and an international library. I too would like to thank our co-sponsors. They have helped make this possible, and wait until you taste the wonderful treats for you in the reception tonight. But I'm especially glad, of course, and thankful for the achievements and presence of our special guest, honoree, and our birthday boy, the distinguished novelist, poet, and critic, Chinua Achebe. Born in 1930, Mr. Achebe was raised by Christian parents in the Igbo village of Ogidi in southeastern Nigeria. He excelled in school and won a scholarship for his undergraduate studies. He became fascinated with world religions and traditional African cultures and began writing stories when he was a university student. After graduation and work as a teacher, he joined the Nigerian Broadcasting Service. And it was during this period he wrote his first and, of course, his most famous novel, Things Fall Apart. It was one of the first African novels written in English to achieve national acclaim. Set in the early days of colonization, Things Fall Apart tells the tragic story of a warrior, Okonkwo, who rigidly identifies with the values of traditional Igbo culture. For this reason, he lacks the flexibility of mind and heart to adapt to the changing conditions under imminent European colonization. One of the first works of fiction to present African village life from an African perspective, Things Fall Apart, was published in 1958, just 2 years before the end of the century of British rule in Nigeria. And of course, we are celebrating, as has been mentioned tonight, the 50th anniversary of its publication this year. Written primarily for an African audience, Mr. Achebe's novels have gained, as already has been mentioned, universal appeal. Things Fall Apart is the most widely read African novel and has become one of the most important books in African literature. It has been translated into 50 languages and has sold well more than 10 million copies. Through subsequent novels, short stories, poetry, critical essays, and political commentary, Mr. Achebe has consistently argued for the right of Africans to tell their own stories in their own ways. Currently, the Charles P. Stevenson Professor of Languages and Literature at Bard College in Annandale-on-Hudson, New York, he made a special trip to Washington to be with us tonight. May I present Mr. Chirua Achebe.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your kindness very much. When the invitation came to me, it sounded as if the Library of Congress was going to celebrate my birthday. And I said, do they do that normally? You see, so anyway, it seems they do, and I've seen a large number of organizations that have co-sponsored my visit, and I deeply appreciate this. All I've been asked to do in return is to read to you. And I hope, it's simply a token. The reading is simply a token of my appreciation. It doesn't pay for it. Yeah. And since it's things fall apart, we are celebrating and talking about. Let me read you a short piece from that book. But I should tell you that I've written other books as well. Though we may not be talking about them tonight. Now, this passage, I would say it's one of my favorite passages in the book. Now and again, when you pick up a book you've had for years, I don't know whether this happens to other people, but it happens to me. Sometimes you find something you'd not seen before. And in the case of a book that has been knocking around for 50 years, that is really a surprise. And it's one of the mysteries, I think, of literature, of art in general. This is one such passage which I found, I won't tell you what it is because it's difficult to tell other people. But I suddenly realized that this passage has a meaning which I had not thought about. Now, I must also, by the way, before I begin, I must thank many of my colleagues who've come from different parts of the United States and maybe even beyond to attend this event. Real stars in the literary and scholarly profession who honored me, a great thing, in my view, for when people you might call your peers, instead of being jealous of you or being unhappy about you. When your peers suddenly show great affection by saying thank you to you, it's an amazing blessing. And so I say thank you very much. Now, I hope you have read Things Fall Apart, but if you haven't, there's still time before, because this is not at the very beginning, it is towards about the middle. So yes, yeah. Okay. Now, the story of Things Fall Apart is a story of a strong man. That's how one of the publishers described it when it came out in 1958. Some people have called him a hero. There's still a lot of discussion about him. He certainly was a hero in my view, a hero of his people. He was defending the rights of his people, or he thought. He was not a perfect hero. Well, no hero seems to be perfect. It seems heroes have a problem quite often, which creates an interesting situation for the writer, because here is a man who is honored by his community, and yet there is this flaw that he doesn't seem to be able to get beyond, and it's the flaw of single-mindedness. And so you deal with it as a writer. It's a very fascinating process. This human being, and he has to be human. There's no point writing about a hero who is an angel. That's not of any value to us, because we're not angels. But we can recognize a hero who has a flaw. And unless we are very, very stupid, we know we have flaws, you see. So that's one reason why it's attractive to artists to create characters like Okonkwo. Now, I won't say too much more, except that at this point in the story, Okonkwo has committed what is considered a very big offense in his community. He has killed a member of the clan by accident. And because it's by accident, his punishment is reduced to exile for 7 years. If it weren't, it would have been for life. Now, Okonkwo is a very ambitious man, and he's very much disturbed by this turn in his life. And he goes into exile to his mother's clan. And he's living there now, but he is so depressed that his uncle, his mother's younger brother, who is now Okonkwo's host, looks at his nephew and is disturbed, is troubled, because he sees depression and perhaps worse. And so he decides to do something about it, to do something to get Okonkwo out of his state of mind. And that's the piece I'm going to read now. Okonkwo and his family I'm sorry, I begin again. Okonkwo and his family worked very hard to plant a new farm. But it was like beginning life anew without the vigor and enthusiasm of youth, like learning to become left-handed in old age. Work no longer had for him the pleasure it used to have. And when there was no work to do, he sat in a silent half-sleep. His life had been ruled by a great passion to become one of the lords of the clan. That had been his life spring, and he had all but achieved it. Then everything had been broken. He had been cast out of his clan, like a fish onto a dry, sandy beach, panting. Clearly, his personal god, or chi, was not made for great things. A man could not rise beyond the destiny of his chi. The saying of the elders was not true, that if a man said yea, his chi also affirmed. Here was a man who said yes. Here was a man whose chi had said no, despite his own affirmation. The old man, Uchendu, saw clearly that Okonkwo had yielded to despair, and he was greatly troubled. He would speak with him after the Isaifi ceremony. On the second day, Uchendu called together his sons and daughters and his nephew, Okonkwo. The men brought their goatskin mats with which they sat on the floor, and the women sat on a sisal mat spread on a raised bank of earth. Uchendu pulled gently at his gray beard and gnashed his teeth. Then he began to speak, quietly and deliberately, picking his words with great care. It is Okonkwo that I primarily wish to speak to, he began. But I want all of you to note what I'm going to say. I'm an old man, and you are all children. I know more about the world than any of you. If there's anyone among you who thinks he knows more, let him speak up. He paused, but no one spoke. why is Okonkwo with us today? This is not his clan. We are only his mother's kinsmen. He does not belong here. He is an exile, condemned for 7 years to live in a strange land. And so he is bowed with grief. But there is one question I would like to ask him. Can you tell me, Okonkwo, why it is that one of the commonest names we give our children is Neka, or Mother is Supreme? We all know that a man is the head of the family, and his wives do his bidding. A child belongs to its father and his family, not to his mother and her family. A man belongs to his fatherland, not his motherland. And yet, we say Neka, Mother is Supreme. Why is that? There was silence. I want Okonkwo to answer me, said Uchendo. I do not know the answer, Okonkwo replied. You do not know the answer? So you see, you are a child. You have many wives and many children, more children than I have. You are a great man in your clan, but you are still a child. My child. Listen to me and I shall tell you. But first, there's one more question I shall ask you. Why is it that when a woman dies, she is taken home to be buried with her own kinsmen? She's not buried with her husband's kinsmen. Why is that? Your mother was brought home to me here and buried with my people. Why was that? Okonkwo shook his head. He does not know that either, said Uchendo. And yet, he is full of sorrow because he has come to live in his motherland for a few years. He laughed a mirthless laughter and turned to his sons and daughters. What about you? Can anyone answer the question? They all shook their heads. Then listen to me, he said, and cleared his throat. It's true that a child belongs to his father, but when a father beats his child, it seeks sympathy in its mother's heart. A man belongs to his fatherland when things are good and life is sweet. But when there is sorrow and bitterness, he finds refuge in his motherland. Your mother is there to protect you. She is buried there. And that is why we say that Mother is supreme. Is it right that you, Okonkwo, should bring to your mother a heavy face and refuse to be comforted? Be careful, or you may displease the dead. Your duty is to comfort your wives and children and take them back to your fatherland after 7 years. But if you allow sorrow to weigh you down and kill you, they will all die in exile. He paused for a long while. These are now your kinsmen. He waved at his sons and daughters. You think you are the greatest sufferer in the world? Do you know that men are sometimes banished for life? Do you know that men sometimes lose all their yams and even their children? I had 6 wives once. I have none now, except that young girl who doesn't know her right from her left. Do you know how many children I have buried? Children I begot in my youth and strength? 22. I did not hang myself, and I am still alive. If you think you are the greatest sufferer in the world, ask my daughter, Akweni, how many twins she has born and thrown away. Have you not heard the song they sing when a woman dies? For whom is it well? For whom is it well? There is no one for whom it is well. Omakalonye, omakalonye, onwelonyo dilema. I have no more to say to you. I was still going to read one piece more. Yeah. Right. Can you take one more? Yeah. The language issue is very crucial. And so what I thought I should add to the prose, which you've just heard, is a poem which I wrote in Igbo, and then asked one of my friends to translate it into English. So I will read the translation first, the translation done by my friend, and then I will read the original Igbo version. Okay, the English version. If anybody asks you who was the translator, it's Professor Menkiti. He's a poet himself. And this is a wake. I wrote this for a very close friend of mine, a very fine poet. Some people would say the finest of our poets, Christopher Kibo, who was killed fighting in the Biafran War. And I sort of based this poem on the form of a dirge in Igbo tradition. The Igbo people have the custom, especially among young people, that when a member of an age grade dies, the other members will go around the town looking for him or her. They pretend that not he or she, I'm sorry this, but what gender does. They sing until their age mate returns. This is the idea of chanting, looking for the person. In fact, it's hide and seek. And Nzomalizo is the refrain you will hear frequently here, and it means hide and seek. And they do this until daybreak, and then they go home and accept that the rumor is in fact true. Okay, a wake for Okibo. For whom are we searching? For whom are we searching? For Okibo we are searching. Nzomalizo. Has he gone for firewood? Let him return. Has he gone to fetch water? Let him return. Has he gone to the marketplace? Let him return. For Okibo we are searching. Nzomalizo. For whom are we searching? For whom are we searching? For Okibo we are searching. Nzomalizo. Has he gone for firewood? May Uboko not take him. Has he gone to the stream? May Iyi not swallow him. Has he gone to the market? Then keep from him, you tumult of the marketplace. Has he gone to battle? Please, Obonuke, step aside for him. For Okibo, we are searching. Nzomalizo. They bring home a dance. Who is to dance it for us? They bring home a war. Who will fight it for us? The one we call repeatedly, there is something he alone can do. It is Okibo we are calling. Nzomalizo. Witness the dance, how it arrives. The war, how it has broken out. But the caller of the dance is nowhere to be found. The brave one in battle is nowhere in sight. Do you not see now that whom we call again and again, there is something he alone can do? It is Okibo we are calling. Nzomalizo. The dance ends abruptly. The spirit dancers fold their dance and depart in midday. Rain soaks the stalwart, soaks the two-sided drum. The flute is broken that elevates the spirit. The music pot shattered that accompanies the leg in its measure. Brave one of my blood, brave one of Igbo land, brave one in the middle of so much blood, owner of riches in the dwelling place of spirit. Okibo is the one for whom I'm searching. Nzomalizo. The Igbo version seems shorter. Ụlọọnwụ Okigbo. Ọ bụ onye ka anyị na-achọ? Ọ bụ onye ka anyị na-achọ? Okigbo ka anyị na-achọ. Nzomalizo. O jelu nkụ ya na-ata, o chuli iyi ya na-ata, o jelu afịa ya na-ata. Okigbo ka anyị na-achọ. Nzomalizo. Ọ bụ onye ka anyị na-achọ? Ọ bụ onye ka anyị na-achọ? Okigbo ka anyị na-achọ. Nzomalizo. O jebe nkụ, ugboko ilini ya. O chube mmiri, iyi ilini ya. O jebe afịa, ụzụ afịa sọọlị ya. O jebe agha, ọgbọnuke biko chaali ya. Okigbo ka anyị na-achọ. Nzomalizo. Ezite egwu, onye ga-agbala anyị? Eseta ọgụ, onye ga-agbala anyị? Onye a na-akpọ nwere ife ọ na-eme. Okigbo ka m na-akpọ. Nzomalizo. Ngwa na egwu ka ọ na-abịa. Ifugo na agha awa, ọgụ egwu choo dike na ọgụ chaa. ifrozi na onye a na-akpọ nwere ife ọ na-eme oke Igbo ka anyị na-akpọ nzomalizo. Egwu ebe na mberede mmọnwụ anyị ewelu mgbachi na mmiri ama dike ma ọkanga ọja na-aja n'mmụọ apịara udu na-edu ọkpa egwu awari okolo nne m okolo Igbo okolobịa na ọgbọ mmee ọgaranya na be mmụọ oke Igbo ka m na-achọ nzomalizo. Thank you.
Permission to proceed.
Yes. That's right.
For the next really phase of our program, we're going to have a brief question and answer session, and our host is going to be Mr. Mwali Lino. Excuse me. Sir?
Hello.
Good evening. We don't have much time, so I've been given some questions here that I'll pose to Professor Chebe. But I'll take the liberty to ask one that I've always wanted to ask. The question is, when you started writing this novel, Things Fall Apart, I believe you were in your 30s at that time. 20s.
I was 28.
Did you share with your friends or your teachers the first drafts that you made of that work? And secondly, did you have any inclination after you had submitted the work to the publishers that this would become a classic book?
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I didn't share the draft with anybody. There was nobody to share drafts with. My teachers didn't believe that there was any chance for Africans, African children, African young men to aspire to be writers. I say that because when the book was published, the publisher gave this news to some of my teachers and in the university college, Baraton, were mostly lecturers from British universities, of course, and they just laughed at the whole idea of Chebe write a novel, kind of. So this was told by my publisher, but I already knew because we'd had an event which the Department of English at the University College, Ibadan, they asked us students to compete if they wanted to write a short story. And I wrote one and sent in. The result, when it came out, was not good. But there was a saving grace. It didn't only say that there was no effort that was good enough to win a prize. It didn't only say that. It had a short note that said, that made a comment about my own effort. Said something like, it wasn't bad, it wasn't too bad, kind of thing. And that it lacked form, by the way. It gave a reason. It lacked form. So I was delighted that I was mentioned in sort of dispatches. But form, what was this form thing? What was it? You see? So I said, well, ask her. So I stopped her one day and said, what, this form thing, can you tell me, what I need to do to get form into? And she was going to play tennis that day, so she said, oh yeah, we'll meet, I'll let you know. And so I asked her several times over I think the whole term. And she always found some reason not to have the meeting. And then suddenly, one day after months, she stopped me and said, I looked at your story again, and there's nothing wrong with it. So, what that said to me was, there's no point. Nobody here is going to tell you how you will write your story. It was made very clear to me. I was young, but it was very clear to me. You better look for something else to do. And that's what I did. So I wasn't expecting that there was anybody I could show a draft to. In any case, I don't work that way. I keep my work secret, till the very end. You become quite authoritarian, when you take on something like writing. I knew that I was my own judge. I had to be the judge for what will leave my house. And to this day, that's the way I work.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, I have another question here. Unfortunately, the people who have posed the questions have not written down their names, so I'll just ask the questions. Okay, this question says, what is the most profound effect that writing Things Fall Apart has had on your life?
Wow. Well, that's a very good question. And did it change my life? Yeah. Even in the process of writing Things Fall Apart actually changed my life. Because I had to invent the language of that story. It was not something that anybody was teaching anywhere. The conversation between Igbo and English. It had not, and so I had to make it up as I went along. And so in a way, that meant that when I came to write the second one, I already had this style this form of writing, which was created by the novel itself, because the novel was able to say to me, no, not that, that's not it, you see. And so I imagined this conversation between two equally powerful languages, not one language and some pidgin thing, which is possible, we could use that. But I decided this has got to be two languages in their full right, talking or attempting to talk to each other. And that was what I wanted to do. So there was no point going anywhere for this. So that was a great change in my whole career, I think, that decision.
Okay, here's another one. Are things really falling apart, or have they started coming back together in Africa?
Well, actually, it's always happening, both of them. Yeah, depends on where you look. And so in some ways, things have come together. In some ways, they are always falling apart.
Another question. Do you think that the power of the do you think that the power of the tribe can integrate or reconcile with what is called democracy?
I don't like the use of the word tribe. Some people don't know this, but if you check their dictionary, I don't know which one you use, whichever, if it's like the one I use, you will find inevitably that tribe carries a certain atmosphere with it. It's defined always in terms of the primitive. Yeah. So, and I wasn't interested in writing about the primitive. So that's the first thing. I don't like a native. And it's very important, if you are going to talk in terms of two languages in conversation, you mustn't think of one as primitive and the other as something else. Whatever your ideology may be, if you want a conversation, not, there was a governor of what is somewhere in Central Africa, who was talking about the horse. There's a way, something about the native. It's like the horse or something, and needs firm handling, kind of language. And I commented somewhere that if that's how you are going to think of the Africans and the Europeans in this place, in terms of the Africans being the horses and the Europeans the rider, you won't get very, very far. Because anyway, let's leave that that aspect. Yeah, it's the convey to you, and this is difficult, my rather strict position in the matter of dialogue between equals, which is what is useful in the end. The sense that I'm talking to somebody like me. You know, you may even be somebody better than me, but not so much better that you can afford to have something less than the perfect language for your discourse. Okay.
We would have loved to continue asking more questions, but we're running out of time because we have something else to do here. So that's all, folks. Thank you. Thank you.
We'll have a chance for more questions at the reception following, which is going to be in the Mumford Room. In the meantime, we have for the next phase of our program, you heard us talk about somebody being a birthday boy. I think over here on my right comes a special treat. Let's all sing Happy Birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear. Happy birthday to you. This is Eve. That was Eve Ferguson and Mary Jane who did the honors. And on behalf of the Library of Congress, we have a small birthday gift, which is a brand new book about the inscriptions and quotations in the Library of Congress, all color photographs. They are very inspiring, but not quite as inspiring sometimes as our tonight's speaker. So thank you so much. And Eve is going to take us to the next phase of our program.
And now we have a special performance by Joseph Ngwa of Rapawama'a Drummers and Anna. We'll dance.
evil or wickedness, without knowledge or enlightenment, a state of ignorance, difficult to understand, the absence of light. But I still believe in Africa, and I'm proud to be an African, because even though my continent has been marred by civil wars, ethnic wars, tribal wars, and HIV and AIDS is killing my people in masses, while the world watches and the media shows with no remorse, please, do not let the media fool you, because to them, news is only when it bleeds, it reads. But I'm not going to abandon my people, and I'm not going to disown my ancestors, and no matter what they say, I'm not going to deny my race. Instead, I have chosen to stand up for Africa. I have chosen to defend my history, protect my land, eliminate the perpetrators and their wickedness, and declare peace in the name of justice. Let us not forget that Africa is the richest continent in natural resources, from gold to diamond, rubber to copper, timber to oil. Africa is widely known for its tourism industry. Africa exports tea, coffee, just to name a few. Africa is beautifully endowed with the Great Rift Valley, the Victoria Falls, the pyramids, the oceans, the seas, and even its people. 80% of the world's supply of coltan, a mineral that is used to manufacture cell phones and computers in the whole world, is found in Africa. Tell me, what darkness comes from all of this light? Yet some of my people want to turn our blessings to curses, letting their flesh control their spirit, making a brother kill his own brother, kill his own father, rape his own mother and his own sister in the name of money, power, riches, and fame. Why are we failing to see the big picture, that if we stand up together, rid ourselves of all the corrupt leaders, we can attain riches beyond our imagination, for we are already rich. And if we have to trade, let us not exchange our minerals for cheap change, while the Western world reaps all the benefits. Let us not exchange our minerals for arms to kill our own people. Who then will stand for us if we cannot stand together for ourselves? Instead, let us exchange our minerals for better machinery and technology, so that we can become self-sufficient. And instead of depending on the West, we can all work together. For if we let our selfish interests control us, some of our leaders putting our lives on the line just to fatten their big fat bellies, then we are saying that we did not learn from colonization and slavery. And it will be sad to say that history repeats itself. Why are we happy to build other nations and continents while we watch Mother Africa crumble and fall? I am crying for revolution, and I am searching for followers, and I am looking for peacemakers. And until the world says that there shall be no more blood, no more rape, no more poverty on my diamonds, no more blood, no more rape, no more poverty on my gold, no more blood, no more rape, no more poverty on my diamonds, and no more blood, no more rape, no more poverty in my oil. We as a people need to stand up together and defend what is ours, fight for what is ours, own what is ours, in peace and not in war. So just like Martin Luther King Jr., I had a dream, I too have a dream. I have a dream that one day Africa shall lend and give aid to the world. Oh yes, and I have a dream that one day we shall find the cure to HIV and AIDS and rid our continent of this dreaded disease. And I have a dream that one day our children shall teach the Western children our culture, instead of it being vice versa. And I have a dream that one day all the African heads of states will come together, speak in one voice, and together form and create one country, one continent, the United States of
Let me say, this is not a happenstance. I read his book in 1968 in high school. in Cameroon. And I'm still reciting verses from it today. And it's an honor, as you know, our African ancestors. They're the one who sent me here. How I got here, I don't know. Applaud that. Yes. So, as an African elder and scholar, you have done a lot for Mother Africa. As a result, we're going to have the seed of Africa that is going to be the President of the United States and save the world. Come on. If you are a Republican, I'm sorry. I'm from Africa. So we go on and say, Obama, go.
Thank you. That was Joseph Ngwa and Anna Malago. Thank you very much for that special performance. Now you have a choice. Only a few of you got a book. If you want to try to get the book signed, we can ask Dr. Achebe if he would be kind enough to sign a few books. Otherwise, we have our reception in the Mumford Room, in which case you have to leave. So you make the choice now, and tomorrow make your choice.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.